Casey, Gary, and Pat are here. The City Council, Sharon, David, Oliver here. I think Ann Ruette may be online. And we have other members from the committee here, from the building committee. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Pat?
Second.
Gary? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, public participation. Members of the public and staff may bring to the committee's attention information, ideas, or matters of concern related to all the duties and responsibilities of this committee. This committee will not allow comments regarding specific staff members or personal grievances. The time for individual remarks will be apportioned according to the number of speakers and will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker unless extended by the chair. As we know, this is 1 hour, this meeting, so we'll have participation, but if it gets beyond each 5 minutes, we'll cut it off and have 3 minutes. Does anybody want to speak? Can you come up there and name and where do you live?
Sure, where's the, do I go right to the?
Right there, yeah, right near
Right
there.
over there.
Yeah.
Face those people, I guess, and not you, or
It's okay.
face away
No
from you?
problem.
Okay. My name is Carrie Hona, and I am a homeowner in Torrington. Our 3 daughters attend Torrington Public Schools. I'm here to speak in favor of a project labor agreement for this building project. If any of you don't know me, I was one of the many community volunteers who fought hard to get the Torrington High School building project passed. I'm a product of Torrington Public Schools. I chose to live here following college, and I believe deeply in our public school system, the high school course offerings, and the diversity of student experiences, both inside and outside the classroom. Torrington is a community desperate for good jobs, secure benefits, and family-sustaining wages. Despite our economic challenges, voters overwhelmingly said yes to building this new school, committing millions of our hard-earned money. If we are using Torrington and Connecticut taxpayer money, we should ensure that we are employing Torrington workers and we are paying them family-sustaining wages and providing them with health insurance and retirement security. A PLA guarantees that taxpayer dollars will create good local jobs for Torrington residents. When a PLA is signed, there's a guarantee that a percentage of the workers will be hired from Torrington directly. While there are already hundreds of building tradespeople in Torrington who are able to do the work, there will also be apprenticeship programs for high school students and other workers right here in town. The building trades start by having a career fair, and applicants can choose from 13 different specialties. They are then trained and placed on the job. Most importantly, when you become a member of the building trades, you don't just have a job, you have a career. Once this THS building project is done, if you sign a PLA, you will have helped create dozens of careers for our residents long into the future. One of the biggest reasons we fought for this new school was for the Career Pathways program. We wanted to ensure the infrastructure necessary to train our students to enter the workforce without having to go into college first. The Building Trades Apprenticeship Program will do exactly that and at no extra cost to the taxpayers. This leads me to my final point about PLAs, cost. I spent a whole lot of time this fall speaking to voters about the cost of this project. Frankly, my reputation and the reputation of many of us here is at stake if the city council or the building committee makes a decision that wastes taxpayer money. Study after study has shown that because of the use of well-trained and readily available workforce, building projects built using a PLA come in on time and under budget. Recently in Meriden, both high school projects were built using PLAs and came in under budget. And I'm sure your speakers today can provide many other examples in Connecticut. Prior to the election, when we all spoke of this building project to others in our community, we talked about creating a community center, something we could all be proud of, a flagship of sorts. Imagine if we could use those precious tax dollars to go one step further, ensuring our city's residents have great jobs and our youth have a path to economic security for decades to come. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else want us public participation?
How you doing, folks? My name's Corey Bailey. Another local resident, long
Where do you
time.
live?
I live in Torrington.
I know, what's your address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 70 Planet Street here in Torrington. Born and raised, graduated from THS 2001. I took a liking to the technical end of, the classes that were offered at the high school. They were only offered for 3 years down at the power mechanics end in the C wing, in the technical wing. And that's really why I showed up. I really enjoyed what I learned from my teacher over there at Bob Reynolds. And I loved going to school because of what I learned in those classes. The academic end of my schooling was not the strongest point, but I really took a liking to it, and that really, I felt like it definitely accelerated me into the future. And outside of high school, I was fortunate enough to land a job in the laborers union here in town with ONG, and I excelled there and worked hard, and eventually applied for an apprenticeship with IUOE Local 478 and operating engineers, and that's where I've been ever since. And I think it's very important that we offer the same opportunities to local kids and try to help them, get on their feet and get a stronghold for careers and retirement and benefits, and give them the same opportunities that I was given and raising a family here in Torrington, and keeping the money right here in town. And that's pretty much all I really have. I mean, it's important. It's 25% of the workforce that's going to build that school should be right here in Torrington from these streets, paying the taxes in town. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Trevon Whitaker. I live on 257 Old Winston Road. I'm also another lifelong, resident of Torrington. Went all through the Torrington Public Schools, graduated 2003 from Torrington High School, and then it was pretty rough. So I'm glad that we're actually doing something new. I again also am in favor of the project labor agreement. I think that we should have residents in Torrington on the job site, mainly because we have a vested interest. Our tax dollars are going towards this. And then, we have that incremental raise in taxes. So we're going to be more vested in trying to get this job done on time, under budget, and making sure that it's, a good job is done. We have children that live here. We have family, members that will be going to this school as well. I went to Torrington Middle School maybe a few years after it was built. And I remember seeing a trash can collecting water that was, there from like a leaking roof. And I'm like, this school is pretty new. So I would think that Torrington residents would like to make sure that that type of stuff doesn't happen, so that when our children end up going to the school, it's safe, no mold problems, no leaks. Everything's, done very well. I've been on jobs with project labor agreements. They go off very smoothly. I've been on jobs that don't have project labor agreements, and some of them can get a little hairy with, people working together and different things like that. But more importantly, I think, we should have skilled people there. Make sure we get the best people possible. Also our residents, because we have a vested interest. It'll help out the surrounding towns because construction workers like to eat, and Torrington residents will know the places to go to get food. I mean, sometimes you have to get your, your car service or different things like that. And we'll know the places around town to send the people, because there's going to be obviously people that don't live in Torrington that come to these jobs, and they won't know. And a quick Google search doesn't always give them the best places to go. So on top of our tax dollars being, coming back and working here, we're also helping out smaller businesses by making recommendations to people who don't live in the town and don't really know what kinds of things we have to offer. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and hope that you seriously look into a project labor agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, somebody right here.
There's one gentleman coming.
I'm not gonna argue with them. Look, all right.
Gary Samick, 400 Larkspur Farm here in town. Definitely in favor of a project labor agreement. Was born here, 30+ year member, resident of the town, 18-year member of the local 478. I've been on the training side of local 478. Have done many projects in this state, all over. Okay, what's one thing that a project labor agreement could guarantee? That residents of this town work on this project. I've seen it to where you go on a project and half the license plates in the parking lot are out of state. Our tax dollars are going for this school. Our tax dollars should come back to us working the job so we keep spending that money here. You know, that's what a project labor agreement can give you. You know, there's countless records on time, under budget, over and over again. I mean, you can go through the records and talk to other towns that have done it, talk to the state have done it. You bring quality help in, you get a quality project out. I don't know what else to tell you. It's what you guys should do, or what we should all be doing.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Larry Jacobs. I've been a Torrington resident for over 40 years. I live at 483 Brightwood Avenue. I've worked for Open Shop for the last 40 years. I actually had the opportunity to actually build this school too a while back. As an Open Shop, we also have apprenticeship programs. We have local people that live here in Torrington. And you already have the best construction manager going, O&G. So I think that any numbers that Torrington can ascertain would be a plus. We sure would like to save some money and fill some more potholes and do some more sidewalks in Torrington. So I don't know why we wouldn't entertain numbers from everybody. That's all. I'm not anti-union or anything else. It's just, it should be open to all. That's about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
There's one gentleman.
Yes.
And then I think there's a couple more, yeah.
Yeah, there were two of
A
them
couple
here.
of gentlemen over here with standing up too.
Hi, my name is Bill Finch. I do not live in Torrington, although I love your city and I love all of our Connecticut cities. I was mayor of Bridgeport for 8 years. And in that time, I was really fortunate to build a number of schools. And I want to compliment you because I know how difficult it is. I know how much time you put in. And I know how thankless it can be because once you make a decision, probably half the people aren't going to like it. So I know where you're at. But it's really important you do this and you get it right because it's all about the community. It's all about the children of the community. So I wanted to urge you to really strongly consider a PLA. I didn't do anything in Bridgeport. We did about $1 billion of work, both public and private, while I was mayor. And the amazing thing was private developers use PLAs. Why do they do that? They get a bigger bang for the buck. I've got some testimony here. I only made 10 copies. On the back of it is a flyer which lays out, you look like the boss. I know you're not going to try it.
Oh, could we not talk about that?
But in that $1 billion, there was public and private PLAs. Why did people want to do PLAs? Because everything was hashed out ahead of time. There was never discussions over whose work it was, whose jurisdiction it was, what trade was doing. It was all set out ahead of time. And you always got your bang for the buck because the unions want the next job. So I represent NECO, which is the National Electrical Contractors Association. And those are all signatories to the labor union contract. And our members find this to be the best way to supply you the highest quality workers. If you look at the training that goes on at the Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee in Connecticut, it's the highest in the entire country. And you'll get those by using the PLA. And a non-union company can also bid for a PLA work. There's nothing in there that says you have to be union, but what it does say is if there's transparency in the payroll, that everybody's getting their health care and their benefits paid for, their retirement. So when I looked at it as mayor, and you look at it as city mothers and fathers here, is that you want to take care of your people. You don't want them showing up at Torrington Hospital and having to use the charity care. You want them to have health care. Everyone on the PLA will have health care. You're not going to go to the hospital and draw down community funds. You're not going to have somebody retire, because what NECA does is we give people careers, not just jobs. This is one of many jobs that our members, our contractors are going to be proud to build. And they're going to go and make sure that these people are taken care of in retirement as well. So when I was there and I was in your shoes, I said, gee, what do I want? I want people who are going to have health care and retirement, because we had 5,300 foreclosures at the time in Bridgeport. We were falling on our rear ends. You know, we were in really big trouble. And what kept us afloat in Bridgeport was that $1 billion of investment, both public and private, went back into the community. The barber shops, the corner stores, the package stores, the grocery stores, that money that I spent, I was fortunate enough to be able to direct into a PLA, went back into Bridgeport. And with 5,300 foreclosures, we needed all the help we can get. Torrington's economy is not great either. You know, you need help in your community. We've been hit hard by COVID and other things. And so I think that if you can keep this money in the community, you'll never regret it. I know I never did. In fact, from what I know now, had I not done the PLA, I would have not been protecting the taxpayers' money. I would not have been protecting the taxpayers' money, because if you look at the chart they did on the back page, you won't get those benefits if you don't use a PLA. You might, but you're not guaranteed. It's not in writing, it's not in the contract. And as you know, because you're very diligent in your work, I can see, you've got to know what's in writing. You got to know what's in the contract. And when it's all in the contract, you are going to be pumping this money right back into your community. So I'm passionate about it. That's why I went and worked for NECA, the National Electrical Contractors Association, because Connecticut has the best electricians in the United States, and we've got to keep them busy. Right now, the economy is pretty rough for everybody. And this will get your families in your town to see the benefit come back around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Just let you know, we have, it's getting to close to 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, I'm going to call it off because we have 2 presentations, 15 minutes each. Yeah.
My name is Christian Ferreira. I'm a resident of Torrington, 2 years. I bought a house at the Weed Road, have 2 daughters, pay my taxes in here. As a supporter of PLA, I believe that everything we've been here talking about for the benefits for the community. And for each one, even those guys that work in the union with me, that pay tax too, some of them living here. So they expect the same as everybody here fighting for. So I'm here to represent those who was not able to come today because they're working actually very hard. So they deserve, we deserve, the community deserve the best that we can get. So as he spoke, that's very important for us to get this work, and we all get together and do what's supposed to do. Basically, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Greg Bennett. I live at 35 Hyde Street here in Torrington. I'm a transplant of Waterbury. I joined the union, Local 48, in 2004. Back then, before that, I went to public school from elementary to high school. I didn't know anything about unions or non-union or trade, or PLAs or anything. And, after high school, I went to community college and, kind of bumbled around a little bit trying to figure out what to do in my life. And I run across an ad for the union, and they were looking for apprentices, and they accept people regardless of gender, race, or age, or experience. So before then, I was trying to apply to become an electrician, but they wanted 1 year experience, 2 year experience. And I had 0, even though I went to a technical school for like a semester and I did really good in the code book lessons. I still couldn't land a job, but the union gave me the opportunity and the chance to apply and pass their prerequisites and interview process. And after my 5th year as being an apprentice, I was able to move from Waterbury in 2008 when I graduated my apprenticeship program, buy a house up on the Hyde Street, got married and have children here. And, I pay taxes, I do everything I'm supposed to do, for the good of the country and the state. And I think PLAs are a good way of informing people about other opportunities besides college or the Army to go to after you graduate high school. And if more people know about PLAs and how they work, then the more of a chance it is that students will have a better future as well, because these unions offer you annuity, pensions, healthcare, training, OSHA training, top of the line OSHA training, CPR classes, and they have your back pretty much with anything. Even if you stumble and you got health issues and you can't afford to work, they collect donations from other members from the same union or from different unions on the job to help support the family members of people who've gotten sick over the years or passed away. So the union is a brotherhood, whether it's the plumbers union or the electrical union or the carpenters union. We all stick together as far as just being genuine human beings and helping each other out, because we all want to see everybody do well. So I'm in support of PLAs as being a resident here. And usually, like, I'm working out in Norwalk and Bridgeport and Danbury. I was in Poughkeepsie for like a year at Vassar Hospital working up there. There's not too much work in this part of the state for the locals. And it'd be great to have a job that's local to the locals, and the money will go back. And as my other brother was saying, was that the construction workers could help boost the economy by buying locally from the delis and whatnot for lunch and coffee break. And, it's good. It's a good thing for the city of Torrington, which, like Mayor Finch was saying, that, the economy here isn't that great, though it's not that great in the whole state, but this will help boost this city for now. And then we'll go further as time goes on. But a new school being built is good to be built by a PLA agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we've reached our time. It's 5 to 5, so we have 15 minutes for each presentation. The first one, Christopher Frixell, sorry, from Associated Builders and Contractors.
Hello, everybody. Christopher Frixell, President of the Associated Builders and Contractors of Connecticut. I'm also joined by our board chairman, Victor Sarambana from BMS Construction. I know I'm short on time, so I'll try to.
We have 15 minutes.
Go quick. Well, I got a lot to say.
Okay.
So what is a PLA? A PLA is a unique pre-bid hiring contract setting forth specific requirements not found in most contracts. In fact, 25 states actually prohibit the use of PLAs. Most construction, public and private, including school construction in the state of Connecticut, is done without the use of the PLA. Who supports PLAs? Well, that's clear. The labor unions support PLAs as the sole beneficiaries of them, and will push them. But I think it's important for everyone to know that this isn't a union versus non-union argument. I agree with so much of what everyone said earlier. This is really a question of opportunity for some or opportunity for all. Under a PLA, it is required that workers are hired from the union hall. If a PLA is not used, workers can be hired from the union hall, and they can also hire open shop workers. So really, without a PLA, you get access to the entire labor pool of qualified workers. Safety. Sometimes proponents talk about how PLAs guarantee safety, and the word guarantee came up a lot, which we'll address. There's no OSHA data showing that PLAs deliver accident-free construction. All workers, regardless of labor affiliation, are required to carry the same OSHA certification. Better trained workers. All these workers here behind you are very well trained. I have absolutely no doubt about that. But open shop contractors also utilize state registered apprenticeship programs. They invest in their workers. They want a highly trained and competitive workforce. And in fact, if a non-union worker wants to work on a PLA, all they have to do is pay the dues. And suddenly they're transformed into a qualified worker under the terms of the agreement. So open shop contractors have access to and utilize state registered apprenticeship programs. Job site fairness. You hear a lot about wages and benefits. This will be a prevailing wage job. All public work, $1 million or more in new construction, prevailing wages are required. Workers are required to be properly classified. Proper insurance is required to be carried. State law dictates that. A PLA isn't necessary to require those things. On time and on budget. This is one of my favorites. There's no magic contract that will guarantee a project is on time or on budget. In fact, PLAs are often the cause of cost overruns and delays. One thing I can tell you is that PLAs depress competition. So because of the restrictive nature of project labor agreements, open shop contractors won't bid. Most of the construction industry in Connecticut is open shop. And when you depress competition of the majority, you're depressing bid competition and increasing costs. I included a quote here. This is from project coordinator with ONG. He confirms exactly what I'm saying based on experience. PLAs in school construction. I hope you all received the study that was sent around. This looks specifically at Connecticut public school construction, looking at 95 schools, comparing PLA construction to those schools built without a PLA, controlling for variables. And it found that PLAs cost 20% more. This is a big project. 20% equals a lot of money. I also included, which I won't spend too much time on, but the Associated General Contractors of America has come to many of the same conclusions that we have. So it's not just ABC saying this. AGC, which you can find right on their website, says many of the same things. UConn, earlier this year, the former chief of staff for administration and finance at UConn, publicly in an opinion piece, decried the PLA mandates on UConn school construction. It costs more. And in fact, he stated unequivocally, it's making it difficult for UConn to compete with other universities. PLAs and local workers, again, this goes back to the word guarantee. Mayor Finch correctly pointed out we should look at the contract. PLAs don't guarantee local hiring. When it's on the page, it's a good faith effort. And if it falls short, there are no consequences. Looking quickly at minority businesses and small businesses, looking at state certified minority and small businesses who are DAS pre-qualified. So again, not fly-by-night organizations. The vast majority are not affiliated with a labor union. That's if you look statewide or right here in Litchfield County. So why won't the open shop bid? Well, for a few reasons. First is the union hiring requirement. So if you sign a PLA, you're required to hire your workers from the union hall. A lot of these companies have been around for generations. They've invested in their employees. They trust their employees. They don't want to leave their employees on the sideline while they are forced to hire unfamiliar workers. Union contribution requirements. Contractors are forced to pay into the union benefit fund. Workers, again, as I mentioned, sometimes contractors can bring a small percentage of their workforce. They're forced to pay into union fees. And that accounts for double benefit payments. So contractors are paying health and retirement benefits for their employees. They don't get to stop paying those if they work on a PLA. They have to continue paying those and pay the union benefit. They can't remain competitive paying double benefits, so they won't bid. Impact on Torrington, you're looking at cost overruns. You're looking at value engineering or scope reduction, getting something less than you had planned for, and delays. And there's no business like construction where time is money. So delays cost money. I included a few case studies. Right now, Willimantic is struggling with a PLA. They're over budget. They are looking at eliminating a pool from construction, LEED certification, environmental certifications. Meriden and Maloney have both had experiences with PLAs being over budget, failing to meet those hiring goals that were promised. Dunkin' Donuts Park, also a PLA. I'm sure most of you remember, Yard Goats lost an entire season in their park. They had to find somewhere else to play. New London, right now, if you go look at the New London Day, Penny Dover Jackson Middle School, struggling with cost overruns. They had underwhelming bids in number and price, and they don't know how to pay for it. That school may be delayed before construction begins. State Pier, PLA, they got 2 bids, both out-of-state contractors. State Office Building, similar problem with the number of bids. Tappan Zee Bridge replacement, Mario Cuomo Bridge, that was behind schedule, way over budget, and now it's got serious concerns with structural integrity because bolts are snapping, bolts that were put in by robots instead of workers. And there's concerns about structural integrity. Big Dig, I don't need to explain, that's synonymous with construction boondoggle, also a PLA. On the other side, I went to a school symposium put on by the state recently. South Windsor was heralded as the gold standard of school construction, how towns should work with the state, not a PLA. But again, 56% of the workers were union. Rocky Hill, similarly, built a school without a PLA, $11 million under budget. They were able to put in additional security features. 40% of the value of that went to the union. Strawberry Hill in Stanford, that one was put out with a PLA. They got 2 bids over budget. They pulled it back, pulled the PLA off. Then they got 8 bids on budget, on schedule. And again, 40% of the work done by union labor.
Chris, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm wrapping up. I'm gonna give Victor a couple minutes. So if you want the best quality for students, the best value for taxpayers, you should reject the PLA so that all qualified workers can work on this project. I included some headlines, which you can go through. I won't go through them all, but I didn't write them. So take a look and consider what you want your headline to be. Now, with my remaining time, I'll turn it over to my board chairman, Victor Sarambana, from VMS Construction, just to say a couple words.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak. As Chris said, I'm Victor Sarambana, president of VMS Construction Company. We've been in business for 39 years, second generation family business. We are primarily a utility site and DOT type contractor. We are state certified, MBE, SBE. We have paid from day one prevailing rates to our employees with prevailing rate benefits from day one. Since inception, we believe that good wages are a staple. To have a good company, to put out good product. We do it as a non-union. We do not consider, or I do not consider, union or non-union to be a ethics thing. It's a business decision as to how you want to operate your business, what rules you want to conform to, and how you want to support the families that work for you. We have 45 families, and I'm proud to have work ahead of them every morning when they show up to work. And we have employees that have been with the company over 30 years. My father had employees that were with him for over 30 years. So as far as turning over, we have virtually no turnover. People here come to VMS, they are able to build longstanding careers. We are not the only non-union contractor that can speak to these things as being part of what they believe in. There are plenty of us within our membership of ABC and also other unions. Locally, I'm sure there are many very qualified Torrington and Torrington area-based contractors that choose to run their business without being union. However, they hire local, they keep those families employed. The talking points that were brought up earlier, a lot of them are standard talking points for PLA support. But if you kind of get past the outside of it, the nitty gritty is that those things are not guaranteed by a PLA. Hiring good contractors, which I can't say enough positive things about O&G as a construction manager or general contractor. They are a gold standard. And I believe that you guys are in a good position here to have a good project without having it have a PLA on it to get that project. And I just wanted to address your tire. We have an account at Tosi for 40 years. If you'd like, I can make a phone call for you.
Last time when I arrived and I broke my phone in my garage, so it's only a new phone.
A rough day.
Yeah. But I'm here. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
quickly, Ed and everybody, really thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate it because we don't always get this opportunity. So I can't say enough how thankful we are for being invited. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll wait after the next one.
Oh, you are going to come to that?
Yeah, we'll have about 5 minutes for questions. Joseph Tona, okay. 15 minutes, and then we're gonna have some questions.
Good evening, committee. Thank you, Mr. Aaron, for having us on. My name is Joe Toner. I'm the executive director of the Connecticut State Building Trades. With me tonight, I have Kimberly Glassman. She's the director of the FFC, which is a labor management group. Kimberly has some parenting classes tonight. As you can see, she has to go to East Haven. So if you guys don't mind, I'd like to have her go first.
We have hot water here.
I'm going to jump
I apologize if I'm sweaty and out of breath, but half of the room will probably understand why. They sympathize with me. My name is Kimberly Glassman. I'm the director of the Foundation for Fair Contracting. We are a labor management nonprofit here in Connecticut. I've been here since 1994. And I wanted to just retort on and reply to some of the remarks that were made by my friend, Chris Frixell, with the Associated Builders and Contractors. We find ourselves in these types of meetings together often. And, one of the big misconceptions is that he said is that it's always the labor unions that push project labor agreements. And that's not true. I am a labor management organization. My organization represents a number, if not most, of the affiliates of the Connecticut State Building Trades Council, but we also represent numerous subcontractor associations, plumbing contractors, mechanical contractors, electrical contractors, ironworker contractors, and all of these subcontractor associations throughout this state who employ thousands of workers in this state support project labor agreements. So I just think it's important to just get in front of that this is somehow a contractor versus worker debate that is crafted for you, but it is not true. This is about what's good economics for your community and for the state. So I just want to stress that. I also want to talk a little bit about the Associated Builders and Contractors. Chris mentions prevailing wage and says, we support unions, we support good wages, we support apprenticeship programs, and I believe that Chris does, but his organization does not. This is an organization that nationally has funded efforts to repeal prevailing wage protections in states like West Virginia, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. They have funded efforts to undermine apprenticeship programs at the federal level. So I want to stress that we really do believe to our core that the reason why this organization opposes the use of project labor agreements is because it seeks to really uphold and protect good wages and benefits and good standards on public construction projects. And I lastly want to mention, before I turn it off to my colleague here, Joe Toner, the Beacon Hill Institute is a study that Chris and the Associated Builders and Contractors constantly use. They push the Beacon Hill Institute all of the time. It is the only study basically that they use. The Beacon Hill Institute is not an academic institution. They're not an academic economic institution. They are a political think tank. And so in the PowerPoint that was provided to you, you have academic studies from leading institutions like Cornell University, and we have dozens of others. We're happy to provide them to any of you to review and look at, which consistently dispute the claim that project labor agreements limit the pool of bidders and that project labor agreements increase cost. It is not upheld by academic economists throughout this country. And so I wanted to just stress that to you as well. So I just wanted to take a moment to push back on some of the fear mongering that we consistently hear. We know these talking points very well. But what Joe's going to talk to you about is the benefits of the project labor agreement, what it means to this city, what it means to subcontractors and to workers. And so with that, I will turn this off over to Joe, but thank you so much for your time. And again, I'm happy to provide any research or information that I can to any of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. So thanks again, and I'll try to go through it. I want to try to go through this a little bit and highlight some of the few things in the handout that we distributed earlier. One of the things I'd like to say is I'm proud to represent over 30,000 unionized construction workers in the state of Connecticut, in which over 200 of those families live here in Torrington, which I think is very important. I think as it's mentioned earlier, I've been an iron worker for 33 years, and we represent members all over the state of Connecticut, and I've never heard anyone complain that lives in Killingly. I've never heard anyone that complains in Torrington about driving to work, because these people up here have been driving day in and day out, and they never complain. And they're some of our greatest members, to be honest with you. They appreciate the opportunity. So I know we're in these isolated areas and in the different corners. If the work's down in, one of the folks was here, Scott Wilson, he's a mason, and I live in Waterford, and he working in New London. So I know what the trip is, right? And that's every day, trying to make a living. So what a project labor agreement is, it's a pre-hire agreement between the municipality and the building trades. It's the only way to ensure resident requirements, resident participation, and career opportunities for your residents here. That is the only way you could do it, is through a project labor agreement. We have 13 different trades in the building trades. Out of all those 13 trades, we self-fund all our own training. So there's no subsidies from the government. There's no subsidies. It's a member check off. We pay for all our own training, and we spend millions of dollars on our own members, training our own members in the industry at the highest level. So that's what in the handout here. I'll just kind of gloss through a few of these. We have some of the facilities you can look at your leisure, but we're all certified with the state of Connecticut. Another program that we're involved with is helmets and hard hats. So it's a federal program where returning veterans have direct entries into our apprentice programs. The returning veteran will reach out to a union hall. They'll talk to an apprentice coordinator. They get hired directly into the apprentice program, and they become members instantly once they're leaving the service. So that will also be incorporated in the project labor agreement here. So we'll have a good spot also for returning veterans to come here. The Building Pathways program is a program that we've also done in Connecticut, and that's part of training disadvantaged people, people of color and women. A lot of times we've done many programs of Building Pathways across the state of Connecticut, very successful, and it's part of the AFL-CIO in conjunction with the building trades. I just want to go to the current presentation that was done earlier. about the cost of project labor agreements. The cost of project labor agreements do not increase the cost on the jobs. I'd like to bring up the Yard Goat Stadium, quite frankly, because previously to this job, I was the president of the Hartford Building Trades. And the Yard Goat Stadium is the complete opposite. The Yard Goat Stadium, unfortunately, the construction manager was over his head on the job. He never did a job that size. He fell down, he fell on his face. Quite honestly, there's no other way to put it. If it wasn't for the building trades, the stadium would not be built right now. Quite frankly, I'll be honest with you. And we had over 35% residents working on that project. 35% residents. We've been doing schools in Hartford for 21 years now, and we've met the resident requirement on every school. And that's 30% residents in the city of Hartford. We've created over 1,300 construction jobs, full-time careers for disadvantaged and underemployed Hartford residents in the last 20 years. So those numbers speak for themselves. Matter of fact, in Hartford, we're at the point now, we've been doing it for so long, we have daughters and sons of people that originally came in through the Hartford Jobs Funnel for the school program are coming into our unions now. So in full-time careers. Back to what Kimberly mentioned earlier about the studies, our studies within here are academic studies. They're not think tank studies. So as information, you guys could take that. I mean, Cornell speaks for itself, right? I think as putting out publications and doing studies, I think that's an unbiased opinion. The resident requirements, I like to say the resident requirements are something that we hold our hats on in the building trades. There's no way you could meet resident requirements without a project labor agreement. At Wilcox Technical School in Meriden, they had almost 30,000 man hours. And out of those hours, there was 1.3% were residents on that project.
5 minutes.
Okay, you flip to Maloney. Maloney was over 20% resident. So which was, a ton of man hours recycled back into the community. We have some Killingly up in Killingly High School. We did Killingly High School, which was a huge success. We have a testimony there from the town manager in Killingly. Matter of fact, in Killingly, there's an RFP that just recently came out for a middle memorial school, which is elementary school. And the building committee decided on a project labor agreement because it was so successful at Killingly, they incorporated it in an RFP. So that's the relationship. And I think in Wyndham, it's very misleading what Mr. Frixell said earlier. Wyndham, we're about ready to wrap up the project labor agreement. The costs there was no reason for cost overrun. The budget is 4 years old. They added to the school. That's when the cost went up, they added to the school. We're negotiating the project labor agreement. It's almost done. As a matter of fact, May 15th, we're going to be up in Wyndham for the career fair. If anyone is here is interested, we're offering the same proposal here for a career fair and then a pre-apprenticeship program. We're going to be up in Wyndham on the 15th. We're going to have the career fair. We're going to take 12 to 15 Wyndham residents. We're going to bring them up to the Laborers Academy in Pomfret. We're going to give them all the pre-apprentice and all the training they need to get on the job. Those 12 or 15 folks are going to be slotted into the unionized apprenticeship programs, and they're going to be written into the project labor agreement that they're going to stay in that job from when the job starts to when it finishes. So for the people that don't have the vehicles and don't have the resources for the vehicles, that's a huge, huge, huge plus for these young folks that don't have the resources that some other young folks have of trying to get back and forth to work without insurance and the vehicle. So that's going to put the feet up here in Torrington. What I will say is I'll try to get to the proposals that we have here for the town since we're running out of time, and I do appreciate the time. Towards the end, as I mentioned, we have over 200 families. We're going to identify 12 to 15 folks here from Torrington exclusively. We're going to roll them into a pre-apprenticeship program. In the hiring agreement, we're going to have up to 25% residents will be working on the project. And also we're going to make sure 30% will be from Litchfield County. And we'll do other related workshops related to the school. We've done a few of them with O&G Industries in Meriden, which was very successful. We have a flow chart of the pre-apprenticeship program that we're going to do here for your residents. And then what will transpire once we get into the career fair is once the career fair goes, we'll have that pre-apprenticeship side. And also what will happen is we'll end up taking more folks into different apprenticeship programs to meet the needs as the job goes on. What I will say in the past in Meriden and Hartford, New Britain, where we've done project labor agreements consistently, New Haven, there's a pipeline that stays in place and the relationship never leaves. So in Meriden, for example, Meriden, they call us all the time in the building trades. They have young folks interested that are getting out of high school. They come in and they apply in our apprenticeship programs, and that relationship doesn't stop. As I mentioned in Hartford, the Hartford program has been so successful for all the young people that we've taken in and helped. It's becoming generational. So this relationship, not just from this school, when the school is constructed, this relationship will be longstanding between the building trades and the town of Torrington. So I think that's important. And the last thing I like to say is this: to send somebody to work here and say it's not a project labor agreement and they have a deal made out where they could put a few residents on. A lot of times it's misleading because unfortunately, when the job is done, there's no guarantee that contractor is going to take that resident to that next job with them. And then you're stuck. And then it's another broken promise to a young person or a person in need to go to a job. The project labor agreement comes in, they get sworn into the unions, into the apprenticeship programs. This job is going to be finished. We work ourselves out of a job, every job we go to in the building trades. And the job is going to finish. They're going to go back to the union hall and they're going to go to another job. Like our folks that spoke earlier, you know what I mean, that are up here, you know, making a living, trying to make a living and take care of their family. So that's what we have to offer. We have careers, not short-term solutions. And I thank you for the time. And I thank you for the consideration. And if I have any questions, Ed, I'd be happy to answer from the committee.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You have a question, Gary?
I have a couple, but to Mr. Toner, first of all, Gary Euclida. The apprenticeship program. And my commitment to this process will be what's best for Torrington. I'm a conservative. I'm a non-union contractor, developer, but you're going to promise us an apprenticeship continuation after the school is complete. Will you still? I'm suspecting that the unions will still offer us ability to path our kids out of our construction technology programs into union apprenticeships, because I was a member of the ABC. No offense, but you guys don't offer apprenticeships. And for me, for Torrington, that is, you may have it once in a while, but they don't exist throughout the state because I was a member. For Torrington, we are a union town when it comes to construction and many other industries. But for Torrington, as the students and the taxpayers, we promised a great school and we promised great pathways. So for this construction and hopefully become machining and other things, I mean, will you commit to apprenticeship programs down the road? I mean, ONG is, Mr. O'Neillia, 20 years ago, I had mentioned to the mayor when we had a reunion years ago that Mr. O'Neillia was demanding that we try to get apprenticeship programs through construction so ONG can continue to create in the entity that they've created, but they haven't been available. So how can you commit to apprenticeship programs to us?
Thank you for the question. We will continue to, we will commit, and we'll commit through the process of the job, and we will be in touch with the guidance counselor, the guidance people, to make sure that the folks are going to continue to get into the apprentice programs. And quite frankly, we'll come up once a year to run career fairs. We will do that. I think the important thing for the building trades is when we get into a community, those relationships don't end when the job is done. They don't. I mean, and it's proven. I mean, and we'll continue to do what we could do to make sure the folks up here are going to have an opportunity. Quite frankly, once the seal is broken and we get the folks in and we do the pre-apprentice program, we end up having cousins, brothers, sisters, and then that type of networking is unbelievable because they know the successes and they're actually making money. So when these guys start, when these folks start with us for the apprentices, they're making over $20 an hour with health benefits and retirement, you know. So, and we train them. We don't train them. They get trained while they're working. So it's in conjunction, but we will continue to offer this community opportunities for its residents well after the job is complete.
Any other questions?
I have more, but those guys go
Pat
first.
has a question.
Yeah, a question. ABC is, as part of their PowerPoint presentation, has stated that the open shop will not bid a project subject to a PLA. What's your position on that?
I would have to disagree. I've been the building trades president in Hartford for many years. Even as the business manager of the iron workers, I've had non-union contractors that continue to bid project labor agreements back and forth. So we've had just a job up at Yukon. We had a success story where an open shop site contractor did a project labor agreement, open shop, signed on to the project labor agreement, was so happy with the experience, ended up signing a full agreement with the trades involved. So that happens all the time, and it crossovers all the time.
Do you see fewer bidders on a project subject to a PLA as a result of the
No.
reluctance of an open shop?
No, I don't. I've been, as far as the Hartford School Program, I've been the co-chair on that side for 20 years. And we make sure there's coverage. ONG can attest to it probably when we speak to them, but we make sure there's coverage on all packages and there's enough bidders on all the packages.
You guarantee that or no?
Yes, yes. Here, we can only control so much on the job, but in some cases, and I don't want to speak for anybody in the construction management side, but depending on how the packages are put out, we have sometimes when I don't think it's the case here, but sometimes there's cases where you have phased projects where, like, Wyndham's a perfect example.
This is not going to be a phase project.
Yeah, so you won't face that, but the phase projects, what happens is it holds the company's bonds up, and a lot of companies aren't as interested holding their bonding up on a 3-year phase project. So this will not happen here.
This will not happen.
We will guarantee coverage for the bid.
I have another one.
Casey, you have one?
No.
No? Anybody else before
For a big mouth.
the last one, because we get.
I know, but it's that's for ABC
Okay.
courtesy, but two quick questions. The president of the organization, how big is your apprenticeship program?
Who you're?
Mr. from VMS?
VMS.
VMS.
I think
I'm sorry, the chairman, I'm sorry, you're the president. How big is your apprenticeship program?
Well, to address what you said earlier.
I'm on his, no, I'm asking, how big is this program?
My companies?
Your apprenticeship program, correct?
How big is it?
How many people do you take every year as apprentices?
Again, we're a company of 45. We have basically 3 or 4 different categories of employees. We're usually 3 to 4.
As
That's
apprentices?
that's to offset retirements and so forth.
But with required work history, my dad was in your business. I mean, you require years of experience. I'm piggybacking.
No, absolutely not. In fact, right now, it's the most important thing in workforce development right now is to get the youth in. And that is something that, one of the reasons I'm a member at ABC is because they have the Construction Education Council. I've sent no less than 5 of my guys through their plumbing apprenticeship program to get licensed.
And how long is that program?
The 4-year program.
But how many hours a week?
Well, they go to school at night, so it's an earn while you learn program. And this gets to what you were saying before about ABC not having apprenticeship. We helped to found the Construction Education Center, which is an apprenticeship training facility.
But it's not a feeder. Well, it's not a work where you get paid. That's what I was getting at. So,
Well, most typically, the students in our apprenticeship program are working for a contractor and getting their on-the-job training hours and then going to school at night.
and then one quick question. The other issue, well, the yard goats is another story, but I don't know Mr. Toner, but it was the contractor. I hired him as an engineer for a couple of years.
Well,
now.
I think
Anyway,
the point of that is the word guarantee is thrown around quite a bit. When in fact, PLA doesn't guarantee these things.
Well, no, nothing. There's nothing guaranteed in this business. It's construction.
Just life and taxes.
Right.
Taxes.
But it's often used, so to your point, the PLA, it's often claimed will guarantee, I mean, Mr. Toner said it a few times, guarantees any number of things, which it can't guarantee. And that's
Well, we have the gold standard in ONG, so I'm being honest, I fully expect ONG to start on day 1 and finish on the expected number of days and make sure it goes quickly. But just to quickly, as to one other simple thing, you talked about insurances and things. One thing about the unions, again, this is because of Torrington. If this job was a smaller job, I'd say bring in the non-union guys. This is a $180 million job by the time we're done. So when it comes to the resources that can bid this job, Ferguson's probably one of the few contractors in the state of Connecticut that qualifies as an electrician to bid this job, maybe one more. This job is so large that I don't know that the non-union contractors, other than those from Massachusetts and New Jersey and Rhode Island, maybe will commit to. What is your bench when it comes to contractors that can come to this job and not sub to a sub to a sub, but show up with this job with their guys and complete this job. How many concrete guys, roofers? I mean,
Well, I'm happy to share with you our membership directory of companies.
no, I mean, I think I would appreciate a list of guys you think are qualified. That
Yeah,
would be
I can
helpful.
provide that to you.
Yes,
For sure. And in addition to that, you know, ABC, we're a membership association, a voluntary membership association.
I know, I was a member for a long time.
Thanks, thank you. If you have additional, Chris and Joe, if you have additional things, send it to me. You have my email. We appreciate everybody coming.
Hey, can I just
Another
reclaim
meeting.
1 more minute, please?
Well, we're finished.
Okay, all right, I just want.
Gave everybody a good time.
Okay.
Listen, we had 1 hour, we have another meeting for 3 hours.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
If you have any more information, send it to me and send it out to
We'll
everyone.
send you the completion rates for the
Send it to me.
ABC and the building.
Everybody
trades.
gets it. So appreciate everybody coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for your time.
Yeah, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So
Second, okay, thank you. 5:32.